As I pulled my 18-wheeler into the dimly lit truck stop, I couldn't help but feel a lingering unease. The night was unnaturally quiet, with a heavy fog settling in around the place, obscuring the few other rigs that dotted the lot. I knew I had a long drive ahead of me, and I needed to get some rest, but something about this place just didn't feel right. I tried to shake off my paranoia and settled into my cab to catch some shut-eye. As my eyes began to close, I tried to focus on the soft hum of the idling engine, but the silence that surrounded me felt heavy, suffocating even. I was jolted awake by a sharp, sickening sound, the screeching of metal against metal. My heart raced as I scanned the fog-filled lot through my windshield, but I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Suddenly, my door was yanked open with such force that it was nearly torn from its hinges. Before I could react, icy tendrils wrapped around my limbs, and I was dragged from my truck, my body slamming against the cold, wet asphalt. My vision blurred from the shock of the impact, and I struggled to make out the creatures responsible for my abduction. My eyes widened in terror as they came into focus, grotesque, skinless monstrosities with elongated limbs, each ending in vicious, razor-sharp talons. Their horrifying, eyeless faces were contorted in a twisted mockery of a grin, their mouths full of needle-like teeth. They began to drag me into the woods, my limbs burning with agony from their icy grip. As we delved deeper into the woods, the fog grew thicker, making it nearly impossible to see anything. My heart pounded with fear as I realized that these creatures intended to devour me alive. I tried to fight them, to free myself from their grasp, but their strength was far beyond anything I could comprehend. I was helpless, trapped in their merciless clutches. Then, as if in answer to my silent pleas, a guttural growl echoed through the fog. The creatures paused, their grip loosening ever so slightly as they turned their headless faces toward the source of the sound. Out of the fog lumbered a massive, hulking bear, its eyes locked on the skinwalking beasts. The bear reared up, bellowing a challenge, and the creatures hissed back, their twisted mouths opening wide to reveal row upon row of jagged teeth. As the battle between the bear and the monsters commenced, I seized my chance to escape, slowly crawling away, my body racked with pain. Despite the agony that coursed through my veins, I was determined to put as much distance between myself and the grisly scene as possible. As I continued to crawl, I couldn't help but steal glances back at the ferocious battle between the bear and the skinwalking creatures. To my horror, I saw that the bear was beginning to falter, the creature's relentless attacks slowly wearing it down. Then, as I crawled past a particularly dense thicket, I stumbled upon another horrifying sight, a cave-like burrow filled with the mutilated corpses of truckers, their faces frozen in a silent scream, the evidence of their painful demise. My stomach churned at the sight, and I fought back the bile that rose in my throat. It was clear to me now that these creatures had been hunting us for some time. As I continued my desperate crawl, my mind raced, trying to piece together what these creatures were and why they targeted us. I couldn't help but feel that there was something even more sinister at play. The eerie fog, the terrifying creatures, and the gruesome burrow, it all seemed to be part of some twisted, otherworldly design. Before I could fully process the situation, I heard a bone-chilling howl echo through the woods. The creatures had finished off the bear, and they would soon be coming for me. With renewed urgency, I dragged myself through the underbrush, ignoring the pain that accompanied every movement. Just as I felt the last of my strength leaving me, I stumbled upon a hidden clearing, illuminated by a faint, ethereal glow. In the center of the clearing stood a massive, gnarled oak tree, its branches stretching out like a skeletal hand reaching for the sky. The ground around the tree was littered with strange, archaic symbols, etched into the dirt with what appeared to be blood. As I stared at the symbols, I felt a sinking feeling in my gut. Whatever was happening here, it was far worse than I could have ever imagined. As I lay there, unable to move any further, I noticed that the ethereal glow surrounding the tree seemed to be intensifying. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but my body was simply too broken to respond. Then, a sudden thought struck me: perhaps the symbols etched into the ground held some power over the creatures. It was a desperate idea, but it was all I had. With trembling hands, I reached out and smeared the bloody dirt onto my face, praying that it would offer some form of protection. To my surprise, the symbols seemed to have an effect. The creatures burst into the clearing, their grotesque forms somehow even more horrifying in the glow of the tree. But as they approached, they recoiled, hissing and snarling at the sight of the symbols smeared across my face. It seemed that my desperate gambit had worked, for the moment, at least. As I lay there, gasping for breath and trying to muster the strength to crawl away, I noticed something strange happening to the tree. The gnarled branches began to twist and writhe, as if they were alive. The tree's bark split open, revealing a gaping maw lined with jagged teeth. The creatures, sensing the danger, turned their attention from me to the monstrosity that was unfolding before us. The creatures and the tree engaged in a terrifying struggle, the ground shaking beneath their titanic blows. As they battled, I used the distraction to crawl further away, my body screaming in protest with every agonizing movement. The eerie glow of the clearing faded behind me, and I found myself once again enveloped by the oppressive fog. The fog seemed to be growing thicker, and it wasn't long before I became disoriented, unable to discern which direction I was heading in. Panic began to set in as the sounds of the battle behind me grew distant, replaced by an eerie silence. I could feel something watching me, an unseen presence lurking just beyond the veil of fog. With each passing moment, I became more and more convinced that I had not escaped the nightmare but had instead been plunged deeper into its horrifying depths. The unseen presence grew closer, and I could hear the ragged breaths of whatever stalked me through the fog. My vision began to dim, and my heart pounded in my chest as if it were trying to escape my body. I knew that I couldn't keep going much longer, and my impending doom seemed inevitable. Just as I was about to succumb to despair, I caught a glimpse of something familiar through the fog, the dim outline of my truck. The adrenaline surged through my veins, and I mustered the last of my strength, propelling myself towards the truck with a newfound determination. I didn't dare look back, even as I heard the growls and hissing of the creatures closing in. With my last ounce of energy, I reached my truck and hauled myself into the cab, slamming the door shut behind me. The creatures slammed against the sides of the rig, their claws screeching against the metal, but they couldn't break through. As I fumbled for the keys and started the engine, I glanced at the rearview mirror, only to see the fog parting to reveal the ghastly tree one last time. The tree's maw opened wide, and it let out an ear-splitting shriek, a sound filled with rage and frustration. I floored the gas pedal, my truck lurching forward and leaving the truck stop far behind. The fog slowly dissipated, and the creatures vanished into the night, their horrifying presence lingering only in my tortured memories.